What is up, everyone? Today we are talking about a movie that came out a few years before we were born, about a rebel who had no reason. Rebel Without a Cause, a movie that was released in 1955 and was the career and life-defining movie of the iconic James Dean. This is SOS Cinema. I'm Andrew Seelig.
I'm Nicholas Visconti.
I'm Stephen Dwyer.
So what do you guys think of the movie?
Phenomenal.
I'm a big fan.
It's a classic.
Timeless.
You could say iconic.
Could say iconic even.
I think I already said that.
Well, I liked it when Steve said it better. It rolled off his tongue in a
I
better way
agree.
than yours.
Okay.
But yeah, we're going to just jump right in here. We'll start with that opening scene. I thought the opening scene was so wild when he's drunk on the sidewalk and he's just like, he's lying down next to the monkey that's clapping his like little hands with the cymbals. Because like, I thought I'd seen this movie before. I rewatched it. Turns out I haven't seen the movie.
Really?
And when that happened, I was like, this is going to be like a happy, funny
VHS.
movie.
So
Steve, you got.
All right, send it. Dang, that was
All right, we had a little cut right there. Steve just took a little piss, and now we're back right now. So let's go.
cool. Yeah, so I guess I'll go back to my point with the little monkey and the cymbals. I think that was just kind of funny. I kind of thought they were trying to make the illusion that the symbol and the monkey is like someone's head when they're drunk. And I thought it was funny that he lied down on the pavement next to him, put the foil blanket over him, or the, what was it? Was it a
Might have just been a regular blanket.
Newspaper.
newspaper? Yeah, that's what it
Tucked
was. It
him
was a
in.
newspaper. Blanket. Steve's on the ground currently now, too. This is pretty wild to
Yeah,
look at.
I placed my mic down there and I didn't feel like picking it up.
Also,
Yeah.
maybe like the symbol, like representing like how he's like kind of crazy in the mind, because he's a young, youthful
Right.
kid, always in trouble, just kind of like out of line.
And
To
so
quote Billy,
he was
from
supposed
Animals
to
Fire.
he was supposed to be 17, right?
Yeah, I think they mentioned that real
Yeah.
quick.
So I just wanted to just quick note, not like that big of a deal, but I think it's just hysterical that he totally does not look 17 whatsoever in the movie. So I
No.
thought that was pretty funny.
How old was James Dean? Do you guys know?
24 when the movie was released, and
He looks about 24.
I don't want to. I think it's the perfect time to get into. It's kind of like early, but so he was 24 when the movie was released, but the movie was actually released a month after he passed away in an automobile accident.
No way.
Yeah,
When did he die?
Wow.
1955, the same year.
Oh, same year?
He died a month before it was released.
Hold up. I'm sorry. I might just be like super ignorant here. James Dean died when he was 24.
That's why he's so famous, I think.
Oh, was he? Because he's one of those people that like was
Yeah.
had like such a good start, but obviously just like
never reached
you know what?
potential, was on the up, so like we
Kinda
never got
like-
to see the potential of him.
kind of like Juice World a little
It's a
bit, and how
shame.
Juice
people
WRLD.
kind of like praise him,
Yeah.
the
It's
rapper,
true,
you know?
Juice WRLD is only 21.
Yeah.
A lot of people are like that.
Yeah.
Is he a part of that
People
like
die
21
young.
club that
Now
you know
he's
what I'm talking
24.
about?
27 club you're
That's
thinking
the
Oh,
of.
27 club, yeah.
Didn't even make it to 27.
So you have to make it 27 to be in that club.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean,
you gotta
Alright.
die
That's
when
why
you're
it's the 27 club.
Not a recommended club to join.
also kind of random, but kind of like how James Dean is like very famous because he died young. I feel like this movie was only really famous because he died at a young age.
I mean, I didn't know that. I genuinely thought it was pretty
Yeah.
good. I liked it a lot.
No, it's a good movie, but I feel like it's iconic, and also
or gets
kind
some
of
praise, yeah.
kind of the same way that like JFK is iconic because he was like the young president, kind of like flashy guy, and then just died at a young age. So we never got to see his full potential. Died in his first term. So I'm just gonna say some similarities between those two.
Yeah.
And, let's get more into the movie though. But that's an interesting fact.
So I also thought, so if we're going to hop back into the movie again. So the jail scene, first of all, I thought was hysterical when he's like making the siren noises and he's just like super loud and obnoxious. But something that really stood out to me in the jail scene is when he first walks in and notices Judy. If you notice during that scene, which I think is like honestly the way that they filmed during that time period, but if you notice in that scene, Judy's the only one who's wearing a like bright, vibrant red dress with bright red lipstick. Everyone else is in mute color tones, which is which I thought was like really interesting to note, just because they clearly were doing that to make her stand out and show that
Yeah.
she was one of the main characters.
Yeah.
And James Dean's also wearing a red jacket later on in the movie too, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, based on like you're saying, like how they made them stand out. This movie kind of seemed very theatrical
Yeah.
in the way that like it kind of seemed like a drama a little bit, like something you'd
Yeah.
see like on a theater
A lot
stage.
of lines felt like you were watching a play.
Yeah. Also, since you mentioned the colors and the clothes, this
Mhm.
was almost filmed in black and white, and thank God it wasn't, because it's probably so classic because of like
Yeah.
you know
The use of
the
the
red
colors.
jacket.
Yeah. And honestly too, I mean, like to that point, it kind of is like a color black and white movie in a way, because for the most part, every other character is like monotone colored besides the two main characters, which maybe was their compromise to make it colored. You know,
Maybe. Also, by the way, we talk about the movie, so if you haven't seen the movie, make sure you watch the movie before you listen to this podcast. We don't spoil anything.
Go watch it.
go watch it now. I also love the music too, because you can tell just by watching this movie. This is like one of the early films of that. I mean, that we would enjoy. People our age would enjoy still, I would think. And it's really cool to note that if you listen to it, you can totally tell right away. But the soundtrack is all orchestrated, and nowadays there's no really orchestrated soundtracks for movies. It's really just picking the popular songs that are out there, which I think is pretty
John
cool.
Williams is still out there.
True. Yeah,
And
there's some.
Hans Zimmerman, he makes some fire, but that's I don't even know. I think that is orchestra still.
With Hans Zimmerman, you're gonna have to like.
He's done a bunch of famous movies. I'm completely blanking
Okay.
on anything he's done right now, though.
I mean, but there's some. I mean, like
Or-
the Star Wars soundtrack. That's an orchestra soundtrack. So I mean, there's some that are still like that are like that. But I mean, it's like a common trend, I think. to
But
have
yeah, no,
popular
I feel
songs.
it. It's definitely like the old movie. Just like you got the symphony score in the whole movie.
Right.
It was really nice.
Yeah, I just gotta say. So were those the police that he was picked up in the police station?
Yeah, I thought that was interesting too. You're probably gonna go into it, so please do.
Yeah,
but
like right now, if that was these days, he'd probably get a fat fine, go to like community service. But they were like very nice to him, and he was like kind of being a bad person. Not a bad person, but he was kind of being a degenerate. And
He was
cops back then
rambunctious.
were pretty nice, apparently.
Yeah, I also think if we're gonna talk about that too, I mean, we are. The juvenile head of the police department. I don't know if they ever say his name, but I also think it's so interesting how in that scene he's like, if you're ever in trouble or in a bad spot, day or night, come and call me and like talk to me. That like getting too like deep or whatever, but I don't think that would ever happen today. There wouldn't really be like a conversation between drunk kid and police nowadays. It'd be more so like
Probably
go
be a
spend
better
the night
world
and-
if it was. The cops
Yeah.
like were kind of,
Yeah, I mean,
working
hey,
with people and not bring them down.
We're all
Probably a little
people.
better.
For real. So I actually had one question too. I a question to myself that I like presented to myself while watching the movie. And my question was, what makes him a rebel without a cause? Because so I think that it's funny too, because I think this movie is so timeless because it's a coming of age movie,
Yep.
and definitely you have some dated things that are in the movie and some dated aspects of the way they talk, the way they dress and stuff. When he's going to school, he's all dressed up in his like suit and tie, which I think is pretty cool. But I don't know how he was like a rebel though.
Yeah.
Like like I can see how he was like lost and like trying to find his way and didn't really know what was like. He was trying to have his voice
He
heard.
was a
but-
rebel without a cause because his cause was being called a chicken.
Also,
Okay,
also,
yeah, don't call
that's
me
not
a
a good
chicken.
reason at all. Also,
But that's kind of like how it's outdated. Like back then,
Right.
maybe being called a chicken, like you like fighting words when you're 17. Like
Yeah.
also
we gotta drive a car off a cliff right now.
that's the name of the movie. He's a rebel with no cause.
Right.
No, but also actually, I think the deeper meaning was like he was trying to avoid being called a chicken because his dad was kind of a pushover, and he
Mhm.
wanted to avoid being his dad.
Yeah.
And
a lot
I
of
think,
daddy issues in this movie.
yeah, he's very.
Yeah.
Oh, facts.
Him and Plato too had daddy issues.
Plato and what's her name? Judy.
Judy. I mean, Judy too. Yeah.
Big
So
daddy
hold
issues.
up. So I just want to. I'm gonna mention two quick things. So first, I made like this connection. So I said that Plato was in need of a father. That was what or need of a family. Plato was like that was his thing that he wanted. He was like he saw James Dean's character and Judy. So Jim and Judy, he saw them as like their mom and dad. So he was in need of a family. I said that Jim was in need to be heard because he's always like getting talked over and like his dad never actually like, gives him the time of the day or his mom. And I said Judy needs someone to love her and to be loved. And I think that that's really interesting because I feel like those three things, family, the need to be heard, and to be loved, is like the three basic human needs of like any person.
Emotional needs, and also
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
I feel like high schoolers and the young kid they're at and they're growing up. They're not like independent emotionally. They kind of need to be dependent on someone.
Right.
So yeah, and also you're talking about Plato a little bit.
Yeah.
Really messed up. Like the first scene they mentioned him, he's like, "Why'd you shoot those dogs?"
Oh,
Hey,
yeah.
She shot puppies.
Yeah, why'd you
He
shoot those
shot
puppies?
And I love it too that the juvenile like
was
police officer was like
disturbed.
he's like, you should see it shrink, but like nothing ends up happening because of it. He's like, yeah, whatever. You know, he sees him in school the next day. He's like, yeah, shoot dogs, no big deal. Just thought that was funny.
Like, not getting too much into it. I mean, it's kind of like throughout the movie, I kind of realized this the more I watched the movie. But like, I'm not a doctor or a psychiatrist, but I think he had like schizophrenia. I think maybe.
You think?
Yeah, maybe because like.
Or like some antisocial.
Yeah, well, we always thought something was out to get him.
Antisocial personality disorder. Is that
Well,
what
can
it
you
is?
honestly, like, I'm just like, curious. Can you like, expand on that? Because the only scene where I can see like where he would think that someone's out to get him was at the very end. He was very paranoid for sure, obviously for good reason.
I'm not a psychiatrist. I don't want to explain the symptoms. I don't know
No,
anything.
no. Like, what part of the scene do you remember?
I
any
just thought
scenes
he
that
was very
stick out?
paranoid about
Okay.
stuff. I feel like
Yeah.
that's a common symptom of people with schizophrenia. Where like
Right.
always
Yeah,
scared of things and like I feel like he was maybe hearing voices. Like
Okay.
they don't like mention it, but like I feel like he might have been able. You know.
Yeah. No, I can see
But
that.
I'm just speculating. I'm not.
Right.
For
No, I
sure
can see that.
paranoid.
Don't write in and complain that
Yeah,
like, oh, you're
I
not a
don't know
doctor.
if they were trying to
Come on,
pose
guys.
him as schizophrenic, but
He definitely had some mental health issue. I think for sure.
Was that before like, schizophrenia was like
yeah.
I mean, this is way before like psychiatry was. That's not true. Maslow.
No, I mean he even in the movie.
55, they might have
this
just
was-
called it manic still or something.
True.
Yeah,
Right?
and this was also the time period where
Maybe.
they didn't really respect psychologists.
Just
Like,
like-
he calls him a head shrink in the movie.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
yeah,
I think like if you had a problem back then, they'd probably just call you crazy and like put you in a
the
psych ward.
loony bin. Yeah. All right, so I do want to bring up another point going back to those three morals about are the three
The three emotional needs.
three emotional needs. The other point I wanted to bring up to you guys, which I thought was really interesting, really interesting and really cool to note. But it seems as if this movie was super progressive for the times it was made in,
I was gonna say.
because, which I love the fact that they do this too, because there's like this total switch of gender roles between the Jim's mom and dad, which normally during the 1950s you would not see that at all. I feel like, especially in movies too, it's usually like kind of boasting like male like masculinity, you know, and trying to like abide by the stereotypes. And another thing that stood out to me, which I thought was awesome, was towards the end, Plato's caretaker, goes up to his body and is like, "My son," like he was always like, not my son, but she was like, "My boy," like kind of claiming Plato as her own like child,
Yeah.
which I thought was so awesome because where his parents are absent, I don't know, I thought it was cool that they brought that into play.
Going back to the first point you made about the gender role reversal
Mm-hmm.
with the parents, that was progressive, but then like Jim was also kind of like hated his dad because of that.
Fair. But I also will say, too, at the end of the movie, they kind of have a coming together moment when Jim's dad is like, stand up. We'll both stand up together. I'll try to be who you want me to be.
Yeah.
And I don't know that. I know that's like,
Yeah,
not
it
like, it's like
ends
pretty
good.
cool. I don't
It
know.
ends good.
I don't
They
think
hit
it's
deep.
I don't think it's like an old time thing to want your father to like stand up and be tough though. That's like a pretty. I think like we all need like a strong masculine like figure in our life.
Right.
So I think like that was a theme that kind of carries over till today. I think too.
For sure. I want to get your guys' opinion on this. So Buzz, who's the antagonist in the movie for the first part,
Is he the guy in the car?
he's the guy in the car.
Okay.
So I don't know. I thought this was like so interesting. So I want to bring this point up to you guys like over text, but I was like, I'm gonna wait till the podcast. I gotta wait and just like get it out here. But this movie, I don't know. I think it was so amazing to watch because for me, it just like it seemed like a different America. Like nothing that happens in this movie really, I would say, was like something that we would see today. But it was also really cool because of that. And I mentioned that because, first of all, the scene where they're knife fighting is crazy. That would never happen
It's
today.
just jabbing.
Just jabbing. And then also when they're playing chicken or when they're playing chicken with the Cliff, I find it really interesting that Buzz shakes Jim's hand. And like they have a mutual respect for each other, even though it's like bully versus like the kid
Yeah.
who's being bullied.
It's a gentleman's sport.
Yeah, which is so strange. I mean, like I just thought like there's a lot of things that happen that were crazy to me.
Yeah, going off. Yeah, so obviously the movie was like very, like the times were like less PC and like more crazy stuff happened.
Right.
But I noticed that. And I also noticed that a lot of the same social hierarchies like throughout high school movies are kind of the same. Like Rebel Without a Cause, which is 1955. Obviously they had the boys in the car, and then like Dazed and Confused, which came out in like the 90s, it's about the 70s. Takes place in the 70s at least.
Right.
Like they have the same like they have, a bunch of bullies driving a car and like beating up like the new not the new kid but the new kid at the high school
The
at that
freshmen,
point.
they're coming in, yeah.
Also, that also exists in like new movies like Perks of a Wallflower.
Yeah, Perks being a wallflower
Where they
for
like
sure.
don't they beat up the
Love
guy
that
for
movie.
being gay or something?
Well, it's
His boyfriend does, but it's because he isn't
Yeah.
coming to terms with
Yeah,
the
but it's
sexuality.
kinda-
a guy
kinda-
calls out
Yeah.
his boyfriend.
Yeah.
And then they get the gay couple gets into a fight,
right.
Yeah, but like
And
the
then-
whole just go on. Sorry.
and then like a bunch of other guys come in and start beating up the one kid.
Yeah,
Right.
the whole
Good,
theme of like
also a good movie. Go
of,
watch
like
that.
popular
For sure.
like kids and like just like the whole mob mentality and like bullying kind of existed in all movies I think, but I think
Right.
it showcased it more back then because I feel like it was more accepted in the 50s.
Oh, definitely. But it's weird the light they did show it in, and maybe it was just for this particular movie, but it didn't seem like the bullying was necessary. And I don't want to speak to the times and say it was better because I have no idea, and it could have been just like glorified for the movie. But it seemed like the bullying back then wasn't as malicious as the bullying is today. You know, like it
I
more
bet
so.
it was pretty bad back then.
Yeah, probably. Yeah, it probably was for
The-
sure. And there was
the real
definitely some
shit.
bad stuff. But at least the way they depicted it in the movie, it was more so like he was getting bullied because he was the new kid. And I made a note of this too. It seems like it was more so because the Buzz kid just was like trying to like show off his manhood almost to the new kid and didn't want to have his like
Yeah.
masculinity test, which I think is a bad thing of the 50s and like earlier times when we have progressed away from that, where like guys don't need to be like this crazy like testosterone like driven person.
Like, architectural
Yeah.
archetype of a man or anything. But
Right.
I don't know, it was also funny like the guy has like slashed his tire. Like got Buzz slashed
Yeah,
Oh,
that was
yeah,
like,
well,
Jim's
yeah.
tires, which was like
Just-
that'd be absurd nowadays if like that happened at our school.
I made a
I
note
love
of that
how-
too.
That'd be absurd.
When he does that, Jim just looks over and he goes,
Yeah, first of all, imagine if that
Oh, we used
happened
to it.
today. Like, if that happened today, first of all, and someone saw you do it too, you'd probably be like fined or in jail for a couple days
Oh,
for property damage or whatever. That person would definitely call their parents. It wouldn't be like, let's settle this outside type deal. It'd be like, oh, I'm calling the police right now. I'm gonna get you in trouble. Which
Oh,
yeah, definitely is
yeah.
good, but
Also, a major backstory of this movie was that like Jim Stark, his name was.
yes.
He and his family moved around like a lot. And I think it's because he never fit in anywhere. Probably because it was really hard to come to be a new kid at school.
right.
And that's another change, or that's not another change, but maybe that's where the movies aren't exactly like real life. Because I mean, in my school, the new kid were like always treated like very nice.
I think that's such a today's day and age thing.
You think so?
'cause-
Do you think back
Yeah.
then?
Yeah, I think from a young age we're just taught to be accepting or more accepting.
Yeah.
I think it's definitely getting better still, and there's still progress to be made. But I think back then it was like
Back in
the
the
new
day, they
kid,
were
oh,
like,
that's a free
fresh
punching
meat.
bag. Yeah, I think so for
new
sure.
people. No.
Yeah, like we don't want new kids coming to our school. This is our like like they have their core. Like I feel like that was
Yeah,
definitely
that's
like, something
true.
they were trying to bring up.
So definitely a change there for sure.
Yeah,
I feel like also back then people were a lot more like neighborly.
yeah, they were.
Like,
the
they were-
communities were tight because you didn't have phones. Like
yeah.
those people, for the most part, I feel like if we're gonna go put ourselves in their world, we're probably hanging out together every day, every like weekend and stuff. So like,
Yeah, everyone's doors unlocked. Just,
Yeah.
like,
It
was
walking
more like-
around.
More like you with us or you against us back then, maybe.
exactly,
Yeah.
exactly, yeah. More sense of tighter knit communities. Actually, it's kind of funny. Little side note, but my uncle, I was working with him this weekend, and he brought up the point, and I think it could relate to this movie too, where back when he was growing up, like if someone knocked on your door, you'd be like, "Oh, who's here? Like, who's coming to see
Yeah.
us? Like, this is like a exciting thing." And now in today's day, if someone knocks on your door, it's like, "Who's here? Like, why is someone knocking on my door
Trying
right
to
now?"
sell me something right now.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I don't know. It's funny. Just think it's definitely different for sure.
Pretty off topic, but I absolutely love the vibe of being at the Griffith Observatory.
Same.
in
I love
Los
that
Angeles. Like they're there in the beginning of the movie on the field trip,
Comes full circle for sure.
and then they go back and like I don't know. That's just sick when they're like in the show.
Also,
They're in the planetarium and they're like, and the guy's talking about the end of the world and the sun exploding.
right. Also, it's kind of funny too. To Andrew's point about Plato's character maybe having schizophrenia or something. I think it might be like. Do you remember that scene in the observatory where he like hides from the stars?
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe that could be like the lights and the
He was-
colors were
He was
like.
freaking out.
Yeah, he was like freaking out. Maybe the lights and the colors were. That it was like over sensory or something like that. I don't know.
Sensory overload.
Sensory overload. That's the word. Thank you, sir. But yeah, also funny, Steve. Sorry, just want to bring this up real quick too. The point that you made, where he's like the end of the world with the sun. I thought something really powerful, I guess, is the scene when they're back in the observatory, and this is at the end. Is it cool if I go to the skip to the end real quick?
Yeah, kind of bouncing around.
Okay, so I like obviously in this part is where Plato is trying to help Jim, and he shoots the teenagers that are coming after him, and then he shoots at the cop too. So he's in a bad situation, and he's freaking out. And obviously some stuff has happened before, and we have this scene where Jim goes to his dad, and he's like, I don't want to be lonely anymore. Or that might have been Judy who said that. But you have all these characters who are coming to these like big points, and Plato, before his demise, goes to Jim and is like, is the end of the world at night? And then Jim responds and is like, no, it's at the dawn. And I don't know, I thought that was kind of like deep, because like he was trying to help his like friend out, and kind of just shows like the end doesn't, it's not the end, I guess. You know, it's like there's still time for new beginning in a way. It was trying to
Like
show, and
that-
unfortunately for Plato, it didn't pan out.
It
that
does
way.
end at dawn for him.
It does very much so end at dawn for him though, which was sad.
Yeah. By the way, did you staple sticky notes together?
Oh, I stapled them for sure. I tried to
Very
make a little
interesting.
book,
Very interesting.
book of notes. Yeah, so if you hear a little flapping around, it's my sticky note
Nice
booklet.
I've
booklet.
seen that before. You know.
Yeah, you know, you gotta do what you gotta do.
Also, I mentioned the dog scene with Plato, but also like they gotta keep the guns away from Plato. This guy was not okay. Like
Right.
picked up a pistol like it was like his lunchbox. Like it was crazy.
You know what though? It's kind of funny. So Jim is trying to help Plato and try to salvage the situation at the end, and he doesn't want Plato to die. But I think that this scene at the end where Plato comes back out with the gun and is pointing at the cops, it is so wild to me, because, or not wild, but like I made the connection to The Town. If you guys have seen that movie, there's a scene
Is that
where
M. Night Shyamalan?
I don't know.
No, is that the? Wait, is that the?
No,
Town
that's
is in the
movie with
Boston
Ben
I haven't
movie?
seen that. I haven't seen that yet.
Okay, well I'm gonna spoil something real quick if that's cool, just because it brings this point.
All right, skip ahead like 30 seconds if you haven't seen The Town.
So in The Town, there's a scene where one of the bank robbers, he's like, I'm not going back to jail. I can't. Pulls out his mag and then turns to the cops and just like gets blown up by the bullets. And obviously Plato had the mag pulled on him by Jim, so it wasn't like he pulled it on himself. But I feel like he went and pointed the gun at the cops because he wanted to go out on his own terms, you know? And I feel like maybe for once that was like him taking control of his own life in a way, which I thought was interesting.
That is pretty interesting. I want to go talk about the car scene a little bit.
Okay.
I kind of talked about the similarities between high school now and high school back then, and like I think like high schoolers have like an obsessive like need to like drive cars recklessly
Yep.
because you first get your
Very
license.
true.
It's so true. I don't
Like,
know why.
In this
You're
scene,
just
they literally
young, stupid.
yeah. When you're young, you feel invincible. Like,
Right.
but in this scene, like they literally drive a stolen car off a cliff, which like honestly like not that far from reality. Honestly,
No.
really not. Like in our high school, kids used to like skirt around like 70 miles per hour doing like donuts. When there's
Someone-
like
School parking lot.
it was crazy. There was like
Someone in our high
poles.
school like hit a pole.
Yeah, drunk
Like,
driving
drove
high
into a
schooler.
pole. Like,
Ridiculous.
that's crazy.
He tore the pole down.
He tore the pole down. Like, first of all, how do you hit a pole? Like, that's absurd. But yeah, like shit happens like that still today.
Yeah, and like when they enter, they go like literally 100 miles per hour down the ramp to the park. It's a small parking lot, probably the size of a couple of football
I've watched
fields.
multiple drag races.
It's really yeah. But also, I just think it's very ironic how so James Dean is involved in that accident. He didn't die in that accident in that scene, but he did die from a car accident like before the movie was released, which is kind of weird. Also,
Karma caught up to him because he never went to the cops.
Yeah.
What car was
so-
he in, do you know?
it's a famous car. I'm not sure. Jamie, search. I'm just kidding. That's Joe Rogan reference. Shout out to Joe Rogan.
Joe Rogan, if you ever want to come on our podcast, you are more than welcome.
Yeah,
We
anytime,
have
Joe
chips
Rogan.
and dip.
We have chips and dip, baby.
So anyway, Jim died in a car accident. He was involved in that car scene. Okay.
Yep.
This is a little bit of a stretch, but Judy, she died. She drowned. The actor who played Judy, Natalie Wood, died at 43 years old in 1981. She drowned, and she was playing in that pool scene. And
Whoa.
Oh.
and Plato mentioned drowning about puppies or something. Or one of them mentioned drowning, and then she was
Drowned puppies.
they're mentioning
Yeah,
something
they
about
did.
drowning
Buddy-
kids or something. They mentioned drowning when she was
Oh
playing
yeah,
pool.
she was like, you can put them in the pool and you'll never have to like talk
Yeah,
to them
yeah.
again either.
About kids. She
Yeah.
died she died at 43, and then Plato.
Don't tell me he's dead too.
No, yeah, Sal Mineo died at the age of 37 in 1976.
Why?
He was stabbed in the heart, and he was shot in the heart in the movie. This movie's cursed.
Yeah.
I think that's why this movie's kind of sick.
That is crazy. I had
Holy
no idea about
shit.
that. First of
Yeah.
all, was that like a common trend of like actors in that era just to die before 50?
I'm
Like,
saying
that's
this
absurd.
movie like is low key cursed. I think it's why it's like really interesting to watch.
Is it like The Ring? Are we all gonna die in 7 days?
Maybe.
I hope the
I've
hell
watched this
not.
before. I watched this before, so like probably not because I lived past the first time I watched it. But.
Can I also just say, so James Dean was driving a Porsche in California.
On
The
9/11?
picture is
Let me
horrifying.
say real quick.
Like
Jesus.
he was like, that's bad.
Yeah, back then the cars
That's
weren't
bad.
as
Oh
reinforced
my
as much as they are
God.
now. But he was speeding, I
Wow.
think, and
I mean, he had to have been the car's a pancake in the picture.
yeah, in the past they used to be horrible. Now
Look up at your own risk, I
It's
guess.
flat.
Yeah. Also, apart from that, car sold for like 300,000 or something, maybe even millions, some crazy amount.
yeah.
He sold,
People are fucked up.
yeah, but
Yeah, right.
I mean-
who wants the memorabilia of like literally?
no,
what,
but like James Dean, like it's part of his. I think that car's like pretty famous. Like, there's pictures of him alive in that car. Very famous
right,
guy.
this one right
and
here.
like, yeah, oh yeah, he's like super iconic.
He's a
and,
stud. Yeah, car's a stud magnet car too. You know,
like, facts.
but
And it
That's
probably
absurd.
went to the family, so that's good.
yeah,
So this whole movie, like, I just think it's like very cursed, and like it's interesting how I don't know. I feel like watching this movie, like it's kind of eerie knowing that James Dean dies before it's released, and then these characters die in like unfortunate ways, pretty
Right.
young. Very weird.
definitely that is like crazy. 316. Back to the movie real quick, and the end scene where Plato dies. I think it's really nice how Jim puts his coat on him and zips it up, so it's like he finally has like a little piece of Jim like with him at all
True.
times. You know,
Yeah.
that was
He
kind of cool.
He was always trying to give him his jacket.
Yeah.
Yeah, the jacket.
Oh yeah. So also to that point, we were just listening to American Pie.
We actually sang it. We could release it if you guys if you email us, we might release it to the public. Very
Yeah.
good, very good cover of the song.
But so after that, I had to go to the bathroom. I was doing some research on the throne, as one does, you know.
As one does.
And really interesting because, so first of all, the jester in that song American Pie is supposed to be Bob Dylan.
Bobby D.
And
And the king.
the king and the queen are also two other famous
The king is
singers.
Elvis, I believe.
Okay.
You can interpret it however you want, but
Right.
Who's the queen?
I could look it up, but
Yeah.
it's too much
Look it
work.
up yourself, guys.
like, did you see how it was like Bob Dylan taking the crown, the jester taking the crown from the king? It's
Yeah.
like folk taking over for.
Which was really cool. And also, they mentioned the jacket stolen from James Dean because it is a reference to this movie, Rebel Without a Cause,
Yeah.
Yeah.
which is pretty cool.
Also, in Free Willin' Bob Dylan's second album, people say he wears a jacket that's very similar to.
Somewhat similar.
Yeah.
I think it's the same
beige.
jacket,
I
but
think
not color.
that's what they
It's
call.
buttoned up.
It's called a James Dean jacket. I'm
Did
pretty
you say
sure.
that the whole thing with Bob Dylan?
Yeah, it's Bob
Oh,
Dylan.
but you say that because of the album cover?
Yeah.
Oh, my
yeah.
bad, guys.
No,
my
no,
bad.
you're good,
No,
dude. You're good.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that coat is like called the James Dean jacket or something.
Yeah, it's pretty.
So,
Cool.
but that's it's pretty neat for sure.
Also, you mentioned that. So Plato always had kind of the protection of Jim
He was
Jim
always
with the
cold.
jacket. Yeah, he's always cold. And then also kind of a happy ending or bittersweet ending for Jim because at the end of like one of the last lines in the movie, he goes, "Mom, Dad, this is my friend Judy," and like he finally got a friend, which was like kind of a nice ending for him.
Okay, hold on. So we have to go to that scene because I made a note of that too. So when that happens, it ends with like the mom and the dad smiling at each other, and they're like super happy after all this chaos just went down. Some kid just died. I thought that they were happy because he finally had a girlfriend. Is it just because it's a friend?
I think
I
it's a
don't
little
even
bit of
know.
both.
Okay, but either way, like based on those circumstances of how that all went down, like it's so crazy how they're like so distraught, and then he's like, "By the way, this is my friend," and they like just start smiling. Whatever, life goes
Yeah.
on. He's got a friend.
I kind of felt when I watched that it was like, like Jim and Judy like walked away after he said that, and then the mom wanted to like say something more, and then she looked at her husband, and he was just like, and she was like, And I was like, oh, okay. So they're cool now.
Yeah, right. And there was also that whole like dynamic where like Jim thought the whole movie was like stand up to her and like stop being like a pushover and stuff like that. So I mean, I
Like,
guess
he kind of did.
yeah, I guess he did.
But
You know,
just in his way. He was just like, hey.
Yeah.
He just smiled.
it was pretty cool. It kind of shows how like
Let's go, Dad.
yeah, they all kind of got what they needed to do. They all grew in their own certain way. You know, for sure.
Did Judy ever resolve things with her father?
No, but I do want to bring that up too. That was like possibly, and maybe that's just like a sign of the times, and that's like how you show affection during that time. But I think it's so weird that the dad's like, Judy, girls don't ask like their dad to like do that anymore, like at this age or whatever. And Judy's like, why? I can't kiss my father? And I don't know, it's just like it was so strange, and like how the dad was so weirded out by like showing the daughter affection. He was like, fathers don't show daughters affection when they get, like turn 16. I was like, what? So
and then
odd.
she ran off, and he goes,
Like he made it seem like he like had a crush on her, and he was trying to like not have a crush on her.
Yeah.
Like, it was weird, you know? Like
he goes, hey,
Oh
glamour
my God,
puss, I'm
Judy,
sorry.
stop it.
right. It's like, Judy, come on, you know I'm
Wait.
married.
So when that happened, didn't right after that she go to the chicken game?
Yep.
I wonder if she was just like playing the ropes, just like knowing what she was doing, like just stage a freak out to then be like walk out the door like I'm leaving, and they're just like, oh, she's got to blow off some steam.
You know what?
But
If
she's
she
actually-
did, she's a finesser,
Going to the game of chicken to watch her boyfriend die.
right?
Also, she switched from her boyfriend to.
I wanted to talk
you go
about
back- you
this.
went to
Yeah,
that.
no, go.
Yeah, she switched so fast. Like she kisses Buzz, and then walks over to James or Jim,
Just
and
gives him some dirt.
give him some dirt. But like there's a little flirtiness over there.
Yeah.
Then-
A little flirty dirty.
Yeah, and then Buzz just drives off a cliff, casually, and then
she's with him.
Yeah,
holds
she
his
drives
hand a little
home
bit,
with him.
strokes his hand a little bit. Was all happy. Really
Which is
weird.
like it's only okay because they had like the lingering eye effect. So in the first scene, he looks at her and you can tell that he likes her from the start.
Yeah,
and then
there were the
and then
signs.
she like looks at him without him noticing, and in the jail as well.
and she
So I don't know. I mean, definitely like your boyfriend just dies. Why are you going with this new guy that you kind of like have a thing for? It's kind of weird. But I also think before you bring up your point, I think it's so strange too. When she gets out of the car, he like grabs her like bonnet and pulls her clothes. Like, you gonna be okay? And like it's like super sexual the way he does it. And like she's like, yeah. And they leave and like she's good. She's chilling.
And he goes, I bet you're a real yo-yo.
Yeah. What
The lingo, like the old time slang is so funny.
oh, it's awesome. Yeah, it's pretty wild, especially because like obviously like getting called a chicken. That's such
Glamour
a different.
puss.
What?
Glamour puss.
Dude,
Glamour
yeah.
puss.
Glamour puss. I was like, wait, what?
But yeah.
I'm so sorry.
It's funny that it just has different connotations back then, because like I don't know, getting called a chicken now would definitely not upset people the way it did to him.
Oh, also on the game of chicken, I really liked this when they're about to do it and like Buzz shakes Jim's hand, and Jim's like, "Why do you do this? Why do you do this anyways?"
Because we have to.
And Buzz goes, "Well, you gotta do something."
Yeah.
Cause like that's just like like you were saying, the times were just so different. It's like the 1950s.
Right.
You're in high school. I mean, there's still nothing to do now, but like, you're like back then they were just like, fuck it, let's drive some cars off a cliff.
Right. It's also kind of funny too because during that scene later on, he goes, I like you. like,
I like
like you miss that like he like thinks he's like a cool kid or whatever. He's like, yeah, it's just like something we got to do. It's like, no, it is. It's high school. We got to have beef with someone, I guess. And you happen to fit the bill.
I'll be a man.
Yeah. But also really funny. I don't know if you guys noticed this, but while I was watching it, the scene at the observatory when they're outside after and they get into the knife fight,
Yeah.
going back earlier into the movie now. I think it's really funny if you notice Plato when they're done fighting, his whole body is circled around in blue, like it was totally like green screened in, and you can totally see it in the movie. It's pretty funny.
I
What scene
didn't
was this
notice.
again?
This is right after the knife fight. Like there's one shot of Plato with like the California background
Really?
behind them, and he's like literally in blue. It's like you could like see like there's like a blue like highlight literally
That's
around
so
his whole
funny.
body. It's
That's
so
so
funny.
funny. Yeah. Also, we kind of mentioned this, but like the fact that Judy and Jim, like they met each other like earlier that day, maybe the night before technically in the police station, but they're like, "I love you," and like that's
Right at
like
the end.
very. That's what I'm saying. Like very play like, and I also thought,
It only falls a day in the life. This
Yeah.
is all one day.
yeah, very play like though, like Tennessee Williams or Arthur Miller kind of play. Like I don't know
Right.
if you guys read that stuff in high school, but it was very similar to that. And also,
Yeah.
Also,
What's All My Sons?
All My
There's
Sons.
another-
I think Tennessee Williams. What's
I like all my
Glass
songs a lot.
Maginot?
That was a good
Glass
point.
Maginot.
I don't remember
Yeah.
that.
Death of a Salesman. Those kind of it's kind
Yeah.
of that same
Mhm.
kind of like vibe, kind of like literature in a movie.
Right.
Also, the acting I gotta say was some of it was like kind of overacting because I think they're used to like the play
Right.
where they're projecting to the audience, but
Well,
it's more like for the screen.
Yeah. Really interesting that you say
Yeah.
that because James Dean's character doesn't actually ever cry. Like he cries in the movie, but like no tears ever come down his eyes, which is very play-esque too.
Yeah.
You know.
There are points where it's like, oh, this is a bit much. But overall, I think his acting job was like incredible.
Yeah, I think I like literally thought that there's so many things in that movie that relate to now still.
Yeah.
Like even though it's like dated aspects of the movie, like overall the message and what they were going for still heavily relates to people in high school today. I feel like
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, like I don't know what 17-year-old would talk like that,
Right.
but it's drama.
Or
It's
get into
dramatized.
like a poking knife fight, but like you know what I mean, like
Well, that I can see.
well at least not in our town.
Yeah, not for us.
But yeah, I know there was so much that like was relatable, I think, and still is, which I honestly think also maybe why he's such a well-known actor and like well-renowned because along with his tragic death, the work that he was in like holds up today.
This must be like I mean obviously there's like always coming of age stuff like Huck Finn and Tom Sawyer was a coming of age
Mhm.
book and stuff like throughout time has definitely been coming of age, but this like might be like the first modern coming of age movie, maybe.
Right.
Maybe.
Like
I honestly think too, like, I feel like for the most part too, like, yes, it was dramatized, but I don't want to say like the realest I've seen of coming of age movies, but I feel like for the most part, all like the newer coming of age movies are very much so like, I don't know, they all follow the same plot line, and I think this one was just cool because it was just different. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah. Also, so if we go to the mansion scene too, go back to that.
yeah,
I guess.
definitely an interesting plot line. I was gonna say.
Yeah. Do you guys think the mansion scene, and especially when they're like playing house, do you think that like signifies? That's what I was trying to say. Like kind of like a point where they all break, like a mental break, you know, like they're like sanity's kind of broken at that point. Like they already know that they're in trouble, and like they're just kind of they've lost it. Kind of like they're like playing house, they're like pretending like nothing's happening.
I think Judy and Jim, they were kind of mocking their parents and at the
Okay.
same time kind of like maybe like getting ready for the future a little bit in like kind of a non-serious way.
Right.
But I think for Plato, he was fulfilling a fantasy.
That was the real deal.
Yeah, so like he was
Right.
he was not joking there.
Plato wasn't playing around.
Also,
Oh, poor kid.
Plato found that house before, and that's why James knew of it, right?
Yeah, when they were
I
at the
don't-
observatory, like pointed it out. He was like, "See
Oh.
that? We could sneak over there. and Nobody would know."
That's what they were talking about. Okay, because I like must have missed that like a little bit, but I was like, I heard on the screen where he was like, "That's when we go over there," but I didn't know what he was
Yeah.
pointing at, so that makes sense now.
And Jim was like, "Who lives there?" He said, "Nobody."
Got you.
You know,
Okay.
here's a theory. Maybe that was his old parents' house.
Were they
Maybe.
rich?
I mean, they don't mention it. They're
Well-
like by the observatory in L.A., so who knows?
But I don't know because when he goes back to the house, he kind of like, I think he grabs a gun too because of this, but he opens a letter that's from his dad, I think, and it's like money for the kid,
What?
and then he crumples it up and then just kind of takes the gun and goes.
That's another thing where I thought he was a little like maybe schizophrenic because he was kind of he like made a bunch of stories about his dad and like maybe he was kind of
Right.
living in a fantasy world. Because like there's one he said he was living in the China he died in the China Sea and there's
Right.
another point where he said he like was a meat guy, he was like doing like deli or something and
He's a meat packager.
yeah in like Manhattan or something similar to that. Which is like he's just kind of living in this whole fantasy world or something. I don't even
Yeah.
know. Maybe his parents were around. He just like was just they weren't like
Well, the
available.
mom was right. The mom was definitely around.
That wasn't his mom though.
No, I know that wasn't
Yeah,
his
that
mom.
was his foster mother.
Yeah,
The mom lives there, but he.
right.
also, I just
we never
wanna-
saw her, but
quick
it was
point-
said that she
Quick
lived
point
there, right?
for 1955, very progressive, and that's one thing about this movie I like is it ages well. I think.
Yeah,
Like it's
sure.
not a whitewashed cast even for 1955. So good
Right.
for that movie for sure.
Well,
Definitely could have more diversity. I
the
think
one black woman was
the housekeeper maid.
housekeeper.
Yeah.
Maid.
But I mean, honestly, she does
Not
have
the
kind of a
best,
bigger.
but-
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it
Well,
is pretty
I thought she was like a
whitewashed
foster mother,
cast.
though. I thought
but-
she was like the mother, foster mother.
I don't
No,
think
no,
so. I
she
think
works
the
for the
mom works
family.
Oh,
She
well, I take my point back.
But I don't know. Even to that point, I will say, to give you a little credit back, the housekeeper does have like a big role in the movie. She was one of like the bigger actresses in the movie, besides obviously Judy. I would put her on the same. She
Yeah.
gets the same amount of lines as like the mom, Jim's
Yeah.
mom. So I mean,
And she's like the best motherly figure of the
Generally,
bunch.
Yeah, for sure.
for real.
Even though she's not actually anyone's mom,
Also,
she cares.
talking about moms, so Jim's mom, I don't know why. So do you guys? Why did he like think that she was like too much? What did she do? Like I get that she was like kind of like a lot at times, but
He's talked about how like his dad just like put up with all her stuff, and
Okay.
and she and like her and her mother like tore him apart,
right.
Yeah.
and he felt bad for his dad, I guess.
Okay.
I think his mother wanted perfection, and his father,
just wanted him to be happy, but
yeah, but like was just
didn't have
too,
like a backbone type
yeah.
deal.
So I think it was the issue with his parents.
Mhm. Yeah, I think it's also kind of cool too that we see.
It reminded me of wait, were you
No,
midpoint?
you go.
Okay. Yeah, have you ever seen Tim Robinson's I Think You Should Leave,
Yes.
the sketch show? You know the skit where they're at the magic show and the guy brings him up on stage, the guy's on
Oh
his date
my
with his
gosh.
wife. And like he brings him up on stage and like part of the show, like the magic show, he kind of makes a fool of him.
Right, you're just making fun of him.
And then they're in bed and the wife's just like, why did you let him make you look like a fool? Like she
Yeah.
freaks out about the magic guy making like jokes at him.
Goes back the next week too, right? To the show again. It's so funny.
She's like,
Also, great show.
she's
Shout
like,
out that show.
she's like, listen, we will continue our marriage until the kids are out of high school, but I will not respect you. And he's like, what?
No, literally, that low key is the dynamic of the mom and dad in this movie. I really think
Also,
it really is.
also, I think Jim wants to take accountability for his actions. Like when the
Right.
kid dies in the car crash, he wants to take accountability, and his parents act like they want like the best for him and be all ideal, but they
Right.
don't actually. When it comes down to it, they don't want him to actually do the right thing. They just want to like do what's easy. And I think that's
Yeah.
why he's like, I'm not running
Right.
anymore. I'm staying here. Like we're gonna face my problems.
A lot of times, I don't want to generalize parents, but I feel like when people get older, they tend to care more about what other people will say.
Right.
So they're worried about like, oh, what will people say if like our boy's involved in this? So that's why they're like, no, you can't be involved
Well,
in this.
that's
But
honestly.
Jim wants to stand up and like do the right thing.
Exactly.
Yeah. I don't know. That's the thing too. Like I don't know. The mom kind of aggravated me in that aspect where like when that happens, she kind of makes it about herself. When he's like, I want to like confess to being there when Buzz dies, and she's like, you don't think I've like lost enough sleep over this stuff? And it's like it's not
Yeah.
about you at that point, like which I think that
Like,
honestly,
a kid just died.
right,
Have some
right.
empathy.
Yeah, and I think that goes on too to like his, to Jim's character's point too when he's like, he's talking to the cop at the beginning, I believe, and says like he's going crazy because of his parents because they say one thing and then flip flop on what they're saying, go back, and it's, I don't know, it kind of
You're
I think
tearing me apart.
yeah, I don't know, it just kind of
So
seems like
dramatic.
parents like I don't know, it seems like parents are like, although we look at them as these like people that have it all figured out and know what's going on, and they do for the most part, I think it kind of was the movie's way of showing that parents are people too, you know.
Kind of an interesting message for the 1950s. I feel like parents were kind of looked at as like follow their rules and like
Right. Another reason why it's kind of progressive. I feel like they were
Yeah.
breaking just from a lot of the stereotypes, especially
Yeah.
of the 50s.
exactly. Should we wrap it up?
Yeah.
Final thoughts?
Final thoughts.
Final thought, I would say I do like my own little personal rating. I give this movie like a 9.2 out of 10. I really think that is
the 9.3.
not a 9.3.
Really? Okay.
I think there's some room for where they could have done like better things, but I genuinely think this is like an A- movie. Like this is a must-watch movie. I think that anyone that watches it will really see. Like
Yeah.
even if you're younger and in high school, definitely you might not. It might not be as impactful for you in high school. I don't know. Maybe.
Well, it's a high school movie. I think it's the best time to watch it.
Yeah.
I
maybe.
watched this
Yeah.
movie for the first time my sophomore year of high school.
Okay.
And I mean, like within the American zeitgeist, this movie is like very, very near the top of being like just like we said before, iconic.
Yeah.
I agree. I give it an A- movie.
Also, great word, zeitgeist. I like that.
Thank you.
First time I heard that was in college my freshman year. I had no idea what it meant, so it's pretty sweet.
I'm not gonna
We're
give it.
expanding
I'm
the
not gonna give it a
vocabulary.
grade because you know, I don't want to give it a grade. It's 'cause, like a movie's like kind of up for interpretation. I'm not gonna.
Yeah.
But anyway, this definitely makes me want to watch more old movies
Right.
because I think it's really interesting, like just seeing these actors, like people who like are like long gone, like just completely different time.
We should do some not Roman, or maybe Roman holiday, but Audrey Hepburn films.
I'm down for
Ooh,
that.
I'm
I
very
already-
Also-
I
down.
love
also-
Audrey Hepburn.
I want to do Stagecoach eventually.
Yes.
Okay.
One
I'd be
of,
very
one of like the
down.
original westerns, 1938,
Okay.
or Wizard of Oz. But yeah, those are down the line though.
Right.
We got
yeah, great movie,
plans.
classic movie, must watch. I'd say.
Yeah.
So
If you want to send us emails,
sos.cinema.sos@gmail.com.
please roast us, give us movie suggestions, whatever you guys want.
Some critiques a little bit.
Yeah, definitely critique us. We're still growing. We're still learning the process here too. We want to make this content more, better. I don't know.
And if
More
you
better.
and if you want to mail Andrew live animals, his address is
Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna. Yeah. I had nothing to say to that, but yeah. What was like, oh yeah, next movie we're watching is. Oh my god, hold on, my computer's being all weird.
Oh, please do not crash.
Okay, we're good. So the next movie we're watching next is Midsommar. It's another Ari Aster.
I think so.
yeah, same
A21
director as
production
Hereditary.
studios or movie studio.
Yeah. So stay tuned if you want to watch it.
I highly recommend. Great movie. We'll have a lot to discuss for sure.
Yeah. All right.
Peace out, Girl Scouts.
Stay real, y'all.
Check out SOS Cinema on all podcasting platforms for access to all episodes.